Welcome to Business Success Tips, where you can learn how to make more money in less time and have more fun, specializing to have fun. I'm excited to have Jim Schneider today of Schneider Construction with us. We've known each other a while, haven't we, Jim?
Yeah, we have. It's been I'm gonna say 7 or 8 years.
Right. Hey, we're still around. That's a good thing.
Yeah,
So
no kidding.
Jim's one of the most successful contractors I know. And so what I'm trying to do is give him some advice to people that are listening to this podcast so they can do what he did, because I consider him a really successful guy. He's not only does he make decent money, he also has a good lifestyle. And he also is an in-shape guy, which I think are all good, right? So being in shape, having a great lifestyle, having good relationships, having great kids, and all that kind of stuff is amazing. So I would like you to share with the audience a little bit how you did it, what your business is, and your secrets to success.
Okay. Well, I think probably the thing that's been most successful for me is to identify really what I'm best at and just do that. I've spent, I've been in business for 38 years, and I have been.
You don't look that old. I'm impressed.
Yeah, well, so anyway, I've been in business for a long time, and like many business owners, entrepreneurs, I've spent a lot of those years being a squirrel, looking at that next shiny object, thinking I can make money doing this and I can make money doing that, and I spent a lot of years trying to be everything to everybody, and probably within the last 5 years have finally just identified that, I do what I do really, really well with a small team. I don't do what I do really well with a big team. And I finally made the commitment to just be better and not bigger. And I do what I do. I can handle what I can handle. And if I can't, if we're not a good fit, I get to know much faster, and we either create a backlog or you find somebody else. And
so Jim, what is it that you do so well?
We're a design build firm, so we don't design in-house. We're low volume, 4 to 6 houses a year, any number of remodels. Okay, but it's kind of a niche in that what we do is the new construction is all high performance. So it is, it's building an A. My sales presentation is very much focused around the fact that 95% of all builders and general contractors build to what is a minimum code standard. Okay, in a society that is hyper focused on education, that's a D, because it just passes. Okay, right. Now if all you want to do is invest in a D, I am fine with that, and I will never pass judgment on anyone that only wants to invest in a D, but I will not build it for you. So it has separated us from a lot of the other folks in my market. And
where's your market, by the way, Jim?
My office is in Norfolk, so Norfolk and Cape Charles, so lower part of the eastern shore of Virginia. So if you look at a map of Virginia, and you see that little finger in Virginia that sticks out in the middle of the water, it's not connected to anything. We build all of our new construction is on the southernmost tip of that, on that small little peninsula.
What's your average size project?
Currently, our average, we're averaging right around 1.5 million on your lot.
Okay, and ask some personal questions. What's your average gross margin?
We try and be around 20. It does vary. My goal is to get to 25%. We're targeting around 20. So, we're going to go anywhere from 15 to 21% at this point. Okay.
And what's your net when it's all said and done?
My net is actually pretty good. My net is anywhere from 7 to 10 because my overhead is low, so that's good.
That's great. That's after your salary. That's a well-performing business.
Yeah.
So how do you get your new work?
It's all word of mouth. I do not do a good job of sales process. I don't do a good job of marketing. What I do a good job of is supporting my existing clients and and it's a lot of word of mouth. Where we are, I give a referral fee to the real estate community for anything that results in a contract.
Mhm.
So that's where we get our work.
And you don't have any problem selling all the work you need to sell?
No.
Now, what about the everybody says, well, I mean, do you have competitors that are cheaper than you, or how do you deal with either the competitive bid process or people wanting, what is it, champagne taste with a beer budget? How do you deal with that?
Well, there are two different questions. First of all, there are other people that are cheaper than us. Well, the reason that there are two reasons that are cheaper than us. One is it's a different product. I go to great lengths to explain to people that when you build high performance, when you build to the level that we are building to, you're not buying the same product. So yes, it is more expensive, but it is not the same. So my job is to educate them as to what is different about it, so they understand the value that they're getting. Again, it's not everybody is our client. I have just in the last month, I've had two potential clients just say, look, I'm not willing to spend that money. It's not that important to me. I'm going to go elsewhere. That's adult conversation. I'm fine with that, because I am not going to, I'm no longer going to build homes to fit someone else's budget. The customization of what we do is all about your countertops and your cabinetry and your light fixtures and your flooring and all of the fixtures and finishes that go into your house. What we're not going to discuss is your HVAC and your insulation and the level of glass that I put in your windows and the way we frame your house and the condition crawl and the conditioned attic. Those are things that building science part of what we do is not anything that my clients have the ability to decide on. So it's not something we negotiate. It's not something you have any choice about. The choice is all of the finish and fixtures.
Okay. And so how do you convince a client to have an A level versus a B? I mean, I guess you can just find clients with A level houses. How do you explain the difference between an A level and a D level house?
Well, you talk about the sustainability of it, the energy efficiency of it, okay, the longevity of it. You talk to people about the fact that, okay, so it is more expensive for me to insulate your roof line as opposed to your ceiling. But if I have your HVAC equipment in your attic, in a conditioned attic, okay, in an encapsulated attic, in the middle of the summer, instead of your HVAC system trying to cool your home to 68 or 70 degrees from a space that's 150 or 160 degrees, it is trying to cool that space from maybe 85 degrees. It's a totally different ask. So as a result, your energy bills are going to be different. Your the condition crawl, the fact that we are building, our typical home has at 50 pascals, anywhere from 0.75 to 1.29 air changes an hour. And then with our ERV, we are mechanically introducing fresh air into the house. Well, we are controlling we're controlling the atmosphere inside the house. As a result, it's more comfortable. It is going to perform better. Your energy bills are going to be lower. Things are going to last longer. It's a lot of that.
So who becomes your client? How do you vet your client, and how do they vet you, and how does that relationship work?
Well, I think it's really just right off the bat at the sales presentation when I'm talking to people about what they can expect from me. We go very quickly into, this is what we do. It is a different product. Is this something you're interested in investing in? It is trying to get, the probably from a sales process, it's trying to get to know as quickly as we can. We are interviewing them just like they're interviewing us, and And it's important to make sure that we're not wasting each other's time very quickly.
Okay. And so how do you vet clients?
Well, what we're doing is anyone that walks through the door, we will have this discussion. We want to know, do you have land? Do you have plans? If someone says, hey, yep, I've got plans and I'm going to get 3 bids, we don't bid. We sign you to a pre-construction agreement and you work with us. We're going to develop your design, your scope of work. Okay. All of this that we're going to budget, we're going to value engineer. All of this is done under the terms of a pre-construction agreement.
Mhm.
Because because without a specific scope of work, there's no way to compare apples and you're not
Right.
going to get an apples to apples comparison or quote or proposal. So we don't do it.
So do you work
Whenever-
from a budget or just tell them this is what it's going to cost or some combination thereof?
I'm sorry.
Do you work from if they say I'm going to spend $1 million on a house? You say, well, I'll see what I can do for that. Or do you say, they say I want to, a 3,000 square foot house and you figure out what's going to cost? Is it?
Well, what we try and do is we try and get to their budget. We ask the budget question right away because without a budget, there's no roadmap. When I get a lot of pushback early on where people feel as though they need to hide their budget to maintain competitive pricing. What I explain to them is that this is not a competitive pricing situation. You need to trust me that I am working on your behalf to get you the most we can get for your money. If that is not where you are, find somebody else.
Okay. So basically they get to know, like, and trust you fairly quickly, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So how do you build that trust with somebody you've just recently met?
Well, you work through that process. That pre-construction process is the first step. They sign that pre-construction agreement and we work through that process will take anywhere from 3 to 6 months. And during that time is when you build that trust. That's when they realize that I am in their corner. I am working on their behalf. I am doing what I can to help them get what they want. And that gives me plenty of time to build that trust.
Okay. And what do you charge for the pre-construction agreement? Does it depend on the size of the house or how does it work?
So remodels are typically, there are several line items. My fee is $5,000. Okay, so I charge $5,000 for my fee, and then everything else is my cost plus 20%. So, for example, the architect works for me, the surveyor works for me, geotechnical engineers, structural, all those folks work for me. They're all line items in the pre-construction agreement, but it's a pass-through plus 20%. So, I am marking it up, but all that runs through me.
So you've already established a precedent of how you're going to do the house, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then when you do the house, it's just 20% or it's 20% plus your fee. How does that work?
No, what we'll do is with the house itself, what we're doing is we are identifying the schedule of values. We identify all the costs. That process is us creating the scope of work, which is the materialist for all the materials and the scopes of work for all the labor that goes into it. So we're getting real-time pricing for labor and material on that specific house. There's nothing generalized. There's no cost per square foot for this. It is very specific to that particular project.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that is not selected, like flooring or cabinetry or countertops, we create specific allowances for. For example, plumbing fixtures. During the pre-construction process, I am asking folks, so tell me about your plumbing fixtures. What finish do you like? Are you looking for modern? Are you looking for transitional? Are you looking for traditional? Those types of things. And for that fixture allowance, I'm taking those plans and I'm building a spreadsheet with every bathroom and all the fixtures and valves and everything that we need. giving it to my rep and saying, okay, we need, I need an allowance for these fixtures, this finish, this style. That's our jumping off point. And then we put all those numbers together. I add my profit and overhead, my general conditions, and that's where we are.
And you're transparent and all that?
I've always been really transparent on all of that. What I've started to do is I've started to not be as transparent with the framing lumber and the windows and the insulation and the HVAC and so all of the things that the client can influence is transparent. There's a schedule of values on all of the things that they can make decisions on that will influence the budget. I no longer show them the framing labor and framing lumber because that is not something that
right.
They can do.
Or even the HVAC unit, if you want a specific kind, they don't know how to choose an HVAC unit, you do, for example.
Correct.
Right?
So I don't share that because what I realized is that if I share every single line item in the budget, it all becomes about the numbers.
Right. And they say, well, can I have a better countertop if I skimp on the HVAC unit, right? Which is not a decision you want to make.
It's not right. That's off the table.
Right. And then how do you help them make those difficult decisions between, you can't have everything you want, but you can have some things you want. So do you help them, do you want this kind of floor, this kind of finishes, and you help them make those difficult decisions because they can't have everything they want? Are you part of that process?
Sure, I am. And I am at the early stages, and then I have a design coordinator that works with them to help facilitate that selection process once we are ready to move to a construction agreement.
And what percentage of your jobs go from pre-construction to construction?
90%.
Okay. So basically,
are the ones that where people just get to a point. There are two things that keep us from moving forward. Sometimes the project just never gets done. They just realize, you know what? I've decided I don't want to do this project. That is one portion of it. The other portion is people realize, hey, I really, really want to work with you, but I just can't afford you. I'm gonna go with the D, and I accept that, and thanks for your time.
okay. Well, that's then if you get 90%, that's a really good closing ratio. It's not a problem. And you manage
because we're not bidding. That is where building that trust early on in that first 3 to 6 months really kind of does its thing.
Now, when and how did you decide to get better and not bigger? Because a lot of guys have a problem with that, right? I'm going to go from 2 million to 10 million to 20 million or whatever. And they don't ever consciously make that decision of, I'm going to be at 6 million or whatever. How did you make that decision, and what helped you make that decision of what size you wanted to be and what lifestyle you wanted?
A couple of things. Probably 5-ish years ago, I was just really struggling with, I like what I do. I don't like being a PR. I don't like being an HR guy. I didn't like having 17 employees and herding all those cats and making sure everybody was doing their job. I'd rather just do the job with a smaller team. And there were two very, very instrumental, I would say, moments in this decision to be better and not bigger. Equally important and almost simultaneous, where I was working through some stuff with one of my Builder 20 members who's got a very, very similar personality to me. And he went through the very same thing I did, the very same struggle and everything, and finally came to the same kind of conclusion that I did. The other was my wife. My wife looked at me one day and said, I am a school teacher. I don't know anything about business, but we've been married for over 30 years. And I will tell you that my observation is you are happiest and most profitable when your company is small. So you take that for what it's worth. So when I added those two things together, it was a no-brainer.
Okay. And how long ago did you make that decision?
2019.
Okay. So that's, 5 years ago. And How has that affected your life?
It's all positive. It's all good. I
Give me some
will say that
examples.
it's, having a smaller company, I wear more hats. I wear more hats. I am more, I spend more time in my business and on my business, but that is okay. That is by design. Um, but I'm happy as a clam. I wouldn't change a thing.
How many hours a week do you work?
Too many.
Okay, that's a good answer or not. So I'm sure a lot of people are listening to this podcast and going, well, I'm at 3 million. Do I get to 5 million? I mean, how do I come to that kind of aha experience where I know I just don't want to be bigger. I want to be better. And if I can make, pick a number, 200 or 300 grand a year, have a nice lifestyle and do 6 million, I'm good. I don't need to get rich.
Well, I think for me, it was less about the volume. It was less about revenue, less about profit. It was more about culture. Um, I I I didn't like the fact that my clients were not raving fans. I mean, yeah, they were happy. It was all good. It was okay, and we took care of anything that wasn't right. And but it's different. Now what happens is my clients continually talk about how we have so exceeded their expectations. So for me, that was the sweet spot. It wasn't the revenue part. It was the fact that I was not able to get to that level of satisfaction, that culture with my trades, with my own team, with my clients at a higher level of volume. Now, that doesn't mean someone else can't do that. That just means I couldn't do it. So
Right.
that is where I settled into our revenue level, our volume level. It was, what we do is so fluid and highly customized that it's really, really hard for me, maybe not for anybody else. It was hard for me to scale that because every decision is critical. There is, our clients are constantly changing their mind. They're constantly massaging well, what about this? And what about this? And what about this? And what about this? Well, when that falls on the underlings, it doesn't go well for me. I'm sure that there are folks out there that can train their people to a high enough level to where that will work great. I was not good at that.
So you can say you found your limitations and you're somewhat proud of them in the sense that, the Peter principle, right? People love it. What is it? Go to the level of competence. They get messed up there. You've actually made a conscious decision that your lifestyle, given the quality of products you can produce, the quality of your clients, that whole thing at whatever it is, 6 or 7 million really works for you, right?
Plus, yeah, no doubt.
That's amazing. Well, I think this is great for our clients to see because I hear that, it's bigger, better. Should I get bigger? I don't know. And I very rarely hear somebody like, this is what I'm really good at. And I'm just going to keep it at this level because it makes me happy, makes my clients happy, makes my subs happy, have a great life. I don't need to get bigger, which I think is amazing.
Well, the thing is, I'm making more now at a lower volume of, I'm making more now than I was, 5 or 6 years ago. And I'm chasing less stuff. I am not, the company that I built, several years ago was really, I mean, I built this machine to where I had to take whatever I could get for whatever I could sell it for just to feed the machine.
Right.
I can, with a smaller team, I can be more selective. I don't need that next job. I don't need that next start. I got to get something going. I don't need that.
Mm-hmm.
That for me has been comforting.
Well, I think it's all about lifestyle in this case. So you have a much better lifestyle, all included, than you were when you had a bigger company. True?
True.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks, Jim. I appreciate you sharing this. And I hope people listen to this because as a coach, I get asked, should I get bigger? And I go, it depends on what you want, right? I mean, you can be happy at 6 million or 60 million or 3 million, but just make that decision and make sure it matches you and your capabilities and your lifestyle. So you create the life you want to live, not just somebody else's idea of a good company, right?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's not about, there's no one size fits all. And it's, what works for me may not work for somebody else.
So as a question, Jim, how does one make that decision? How does one say, okay, 3 million is good, 8 million is good, 10 million is good? Because usually what happens, in my experience as a coach, is people grow their company to a level of incompetence and it sort of stays there and collapses. And they say, well, 10 million is a bad number, 2 million is a bad, they pick a number and they blame it on the volume, not on themselves, right? And it's always about them. So how does one choose a good volume for them? How do you make that decision? How did you make that decision?
Well, it really became about what our bandwidth was. What can we do? What can we do effectively at a high level? And, I mean, I think any business owner has to be in tune with the operations of what's going on. So, if I feel as though we are getting too busy, you got to back it off. If I feel there are too many people in the pipeline, you got to back it off. I think it was less about it was less about the revenue. It was more about what I was able to identify we could do at a high level. And interestingly, because we're doing it at a high level, I've been able to raise my prices because people will pay it because they're getting more value.
You've also obviously built a brand based on your beliefs, right? So you build an A-level house. They want an A-level house. They can come to you. If they want something else, they can go to somebody else. But I think you've internalized that. So it's your team, your whole company personifies that. So people will probably seek you out if that's what they want.
Absolutely. And it's also an A-level experience too. I mean, I think that's also part of it. The experience that they get. I mean, I think that being able to just put your seatbelt on and enjoy the ride, you are giving us direction. You are giving us the roadmap, but you don't have to steer the ship. You're just along for the ride. And focusing on who they are and what makes them tick and things that are relevant to them, humanizing everything, making sure that they understand that they are a client, not a customer, and that they're important to us, that there is a relationship there, makes all the difference in the world. So it's not just the product, it is absolutely the relationship and the experience.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jim. I appreciate that. And I hope some guys listen to this because I hear that question, how big should I be? I think it's a very personal decision, but it needs to be based on your passion, your lifestyle, and what makes you happy. Because if you're miserable and rich, that doesn't help, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Jim. I appreciate your time. And it was great having you as a guest.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for having me.